Hello and welcome, you guys. It is actually happening. I am going to be reading a chapter out of my book every week for free. It only took me, let's not go into how long it's taken me, but here we go. This is the very start with the introduction, and then we'll do chapter 1, and tune in next week for chapter 2. Title of my book, guess I should say that. This is my original cover. Turn Your Magic All the Way Up, A Ridiculous Guide to Discovering Yourself After Narcissistic Abuse, available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, or audiobook read by me, or you can just subscribe and, like I said, I'll be reading a chapter once a week. Here we go. Introduction. If you would like a peek into the inner workings of my mind as I wrote this book, I am including an accompanying link to my public Spotify playlist. Songs I associated with each chapter are listed in purple throughout the book. I will post the link to that Spotify playlist in the description and the comments below. Chapter 1. Strap yourselves in. We get right to it, aka get in, sit down, shut up, and hang on. Song Younger Me by the Brothers Osborne. I used to think 40 was old. In a way, it is. It's the death of the first part of my life, and I didn't even know it until I got here. I definitely didn't think that I would die 8 days before my 45th birthday. But the image of who I was, who I am in my head, and the story of the me that I thought I knew so well to this point turned out to all be an illusion. A fairy tale. A story I had literally convinced myself was the life I wanted to lead. I honestly thought it was real. I thought I was wide awake, more so than most even. I thought I was very honest with myself and that I knew what I wanted. I was wrong. I died that day, but I was reborn that day too. No, seriously, the old me, gone. Completely gone. Never coming back. She can't after learning what I have. You can't unlearn things and can't unsee the truth. I will never ever be the same now that I am off the hamster wheel of capitalistic life and am aware of above the veil of consciousness living. Thank you, life coach Lisa A. Romano. I sound all woo-woo crazy, don't I? Don't check out on me yet, guys. There are plenty of juicy bits later if you just hang in there. I mean, I do have 3 upcoming chapters called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, respectively. So trust me, it gets way worse. You're thinking midlife crisis, right? Obviously, duh. That's what everyone will say this is. But before you ever reach this far off sounding midlife crisis, this far off sounding middle age that I currently find myself in. A midlife crisis just sounds like it will be exactly as they portray it to be in the movies. You buy a fast car, make impulsive decisions like dating someone 20 years younger, change your appearance, or pick up and move somewhere new. No one ever indicated that a midlife crisis is actually an awakening. It's all at your fingertips, and this is the age when you finally have enough experiences and knowledge to look at the puzzle pieces that make up your life and put it all together. If you're brave enough to face your truth, to ask the hard and dirty questions, to be truly open and vulnerable, your life will, honest to science, change. Your eyes will open for the first time in your life, and you'll wonder where the fuck you have been, who you have been, and if you even know yourself at all. Recognizing childhood trauma and naming it as such was the key to my awakening, and I wonder how many people out there are putting these pieces together right now too. Childhood trauma. Yeah, we're getting right to the hard-hitting shit right here in chapter 1. I told you to buckle up. Recognizing it, and validating your experiences with it will stop the cycle that you're stuck in, whatever that may be. It will change this whole world, my friends. Not just for you, but for society. Just imagine how much happier we all would be if we could just make sense of our lives and our choices and find out what makes us happy. I feel that this one thing, Owning our story of abuse and not letting it hold shame or guilt over us in any way will allow us all to speak about it without fear of embarrassment or being shunned by society. Because honestly, it sure feels like most of us have trauma or addiction somewhere in our family history. And talking about it is something we just don't do because shame, ding, ding, shame, ding, ding, shame. Song, Shame, Shame by the Foo Fighters. All because of shame. Brene Brown has it figured out. Check out her books and TED Talk on shame. She is amazing. These quote unquote shameful things that are just part of us, part of our stories, need to be accepted as valid and treated as such. These are exactly the things that should be discussed and exposed to the light. No guilt, no blame, only empathy and compassion, because the key word here is childhood. These traumas happen to us as children, innocent children. Children like you and me who did nothing wrong and did not deserve the neglect, abuse, or trauma that was inflicted upon us. We had no control. It was not our fault, and we deserved better. We were let down, guys. Our parents, even if they did the very best they could, failed us. And it's okay to say that out loud. That line in Good Will Hunting where Robin Williams tells Matt Damon over and over, "It's not your fault," hits differently when you see yourself as that patient. When you finally admit that someone who held superiority over you hurt you, an innocent child who only wanted love and to be loved, your inner wounds are finally brought to the surface. I didn't really get that until now. And that was my favorite movie for so long, too. Universe, you funny sneaky bitch. I love you. Everything always comes full circle. But that recognition part, we must recognize that we were, in fact, abused. Parents or anyone telling us that what we personally experienced as children didn't happen, or that we are not remembering it correctly, is called gaslighting. It's something toxic people do to hide what they feel guilty for. Your experiences are completely valid. Your emotional memories are real, period. I experienced abuse but was made to feel guilty calling it out as such because I wasn't beaten and food was always on the table. But guess what, folks? Emotional neglect is also abuse. It fucks kids up. I can call out my parents for neglect and still love them because they did not know the damage they were inflicting back then. They were both doing the best they could at the time with the tools they had in their emotional toolbox that they had inherited from their toxic childhood. They were just passing down what had been implanted in their brains as being normal and acceptable behavior. I don't blame them. This is not about blame. It just explains why I am the way I am. Being able to shine a light onto all the places I've been hurt or felt abandoned in my past isn't pointing the finger of accusation. It is finding the hole in the boat that needs fixing before I sink and disappear. A hole that I didn't even know was there. It is putting pressure on a wound that has been bleeding for far too long and giving it time to finally heal for good. Finally saying to myself, yes, I was abused as a child was the key to it all. In my past, I had told everyone, therapists included, that I had a great relationship with my parents and an idyllic childhood. I'd tell them every time, I can't complain. I know my parents loved me, I loved them, and they did the best they could. I'd then wonder where my depression, anxiety, rage, and string of toxic relationships stemmed from. One therapist took the route of, it doesn't matter where it came from. Let's work with where we are right now. And while I appreciate her sentiment, I believe that might have set me back a bit in my healing process. Why? Because you can't ever truly fix yourself if you have no idea why you act and react the way you do. And to figure out why you act and react the way you do, you need to be able to face the cold, hard truth about your upbringing and where all those default settings in your software programming really come from. Your parents are basically your software engineers. What information they program you with is what you will spit back out like a good computer without even thinking about where it comes from or why. It will come naturally to you from your subconscious, and you will just assume it is normal or correct because it's literally all you've ever known existed. When you start digging, you start questioning things. You realize there are other software programs out there, better ones, faster ones, easier ones that are more compatible with your hard drive. In finding new programs and software, you gain hope and realize that it doesn't have to all be black and green in the matrix. It can be whatever color you want it to be. Maybe you were neglected or abused as a child, but it was so much your normal that you didn't even realize it until decades later, if you have allowed yourself to see it yet at all. Or you knew stories of people who had it worse than you, so you rationalized your own experiences away and considered yourself lucky. Maybe you got sick with a mystery illness no one could diagnose or put a name to, but you were clearly ill and feeling physical pain. Repressed and unrecognized emotions will do that. And how fucking unfair is that you can make yourself sick subconsciously? Seriously? Not fair at all, but here we are. Maybe you've been told you're depressed, or that it's just in your head, or it's just old age. They tell you to just suck it up, be happy, you have nothing to be unhappy about, you have a pretty good life. Maybe it's hormones, lose weight, exercise more, eat better, go on a diet, try this antidepressant, try this holistic treatment. Try meditation. Try a sleep study. There's a myriad of things the doctors throw at you, and you try them all, desperate for an answer, and nothing helps. Song Light Year by Emma Stevens. Maybe you keep finding yourself in relationships with men who are the same person in a different body, each one more toxic and damaging to your psyche than the last. Maybe you finally hit rock bottom with nothing in the world left to lose, so you finally look inside to fix yourself. Bad news? I'm here to tell you that the chances are good. There just might be something really wrong. Worse news, it really is in your head. Sorry. Good news? You can fix it. You can unlock it from your head and release everything holding you back along with it. I'm hopeful this book will be your guide to taking the first step. In listening to Lisa A. Romano's podcasts and various YouTube clips, I felt seen, heard, and understood. I will mention Lisa a lot. She is my guru and the reason I'm writing this book. Often, I will just refer to her as Lisa, as if we are close buddies. We are not yet. Hopefully, after this book, we will be. Lisa had experienced nearly everything in my own life that I had: narcissistic father, codependent mother, a failed marriage followed by a handful of toxic relationships with narcissists, and a bout with a mystery illness. When she spoke of having an illness that she eventually tied to her repressed emotions and stress making her physically ill, I felt my intuition tapping at the back of my skull. Tap, tap. Hello, are you in there? Doesn't that really sound like what happened to you? Now that you can stand back and put all the pieces together, wake up. Listen to me. That is you. That was me. I've been there, searching for a proper diagnosis of a mystery illness. It all makes sense now. There's a whole lot more to this emotional, mental, physical body connection than we really have a handle on just yet, but I think we're on the right path to getting there. I'm hoping books like this will continue to be the catalyst to realizing this is where another key to helping people lies, combining treatment of physical ailments with mental therapy. I'm only just now dipping my toe into the world of chakras, but I like what I'm finding out so far. Again, just another thing that makes sense and feels like the puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. I'm going with my gut these days. I feel that if you are truly seeking enlightenment and you're having a hard time figuring out why you're miserable, unhappy, hurting, sick, unfulfilled, and always searching, brokenhearted, bad at relationships, try therapy. You're going to have to get completely honest with yourself and entertain some crazy ideas before your truth will stick with you for real. If and when you finally dig real deep, it will one day just smack you in the face hard enough that you'll see stars. Yeah, it's literally like that. It's like TV static going across your eyes for a second, in the snap of a finger. That's what it feels like when all the pieces fall together. There's no faking that moment. There's no faking that feeling of just knowing. So if you're ready to dig deep and you're emotionally broken, like me, start by Googling some shit. Song I Love Me by Demi Lovato. Watch a shit ton of YouTube self-help videos or head over to TikTok. Pick a search word: narcissist, trauma bond, codependent, childhood trauma, addiction, etc., and see what pulls up for you. Some life coach or doctor channels will sound good to you, some won't. I recommend Lisa A. Romano and at the.narc.hunter. Follow the ones that you find yourself nodding your head in agreement with. Go with what resonates to you. You'll know it if you listen to your intuition, so pay attention. Be honest with yourself about everything. There is no getting around this. Your subconscious exists to protect you, so you've got to question your beliefs. Ask yourself why you think the way you do and see if anything kicks up. Only if you're really, truly honest about the ugly and the painful parts, the parts you don't want anyone to know about, are you ever going to experience change, real peace, and real love, joy, acceptance of yourself. It's going to hurt at first, but it's temporary and it's worth it, I promise. The joy is 10 times better than the hurt. Chase that dragon. Read books. Educate yourself on repressed childhood trauma. Do not question if you have the right to feel what you're feeling. Your emotions shouldn't be judged, only recognized and accepted as valid before figuring out where they came from. Do not allow that inner voice or any friend, family member, or significant other to make you feel guilty, to shame you, or to talk you out of looking into this issue for yourself. Only you were in your child brain during your childhood, so whatever it is you remember as your truth is valid. I cannot stress this enough. Accept that as fact and move along with a new outlook on your behavioral past. Emotional abuse is slippery to name, and those of us who truly love our parents are woe to point fingers and say, I love you and I forgive you because you didn't know better, but what you did was abuse and it really fucked me up. I get it. Who wants to tell their own parents that they damaged their kid, especially if the reaction is going to be painful to you because they get pissed or blow you off and tell you that you're crazy? Invalidation. But if it's true, then calling it out as such is never wrong, no matter how they try to gaslight you. Anyone who reacts without empathy is too far on the toxic narcissism spectrum and will never hear you anyway. Give up trying to get your point across to those types of people. We are looking for the ones who show empathy and at least acknowledge your experience, even if they don't agree with it. You lived it, so it is valid to you and your memories. Accepting this fully, without guilt or shame, will allow you to move on. You are valid, as are your experiences in life. But most importantly, life lesson number 1, listen to your intuition and trust your gut. Song Spotlight by Patrick Stump. When you finally realize your truth, you will know it. You will feel it. It's hard to miss that mind-blowing epiphany. It will resonate with you. There will be no doubt in your head. It will all make sense and it will all fall into place like a true aha moment. You will simply know it if you allow yourself to see it as true and don't explain it away as silly. Trust your gut is telling you the truth and go with it. Your gut is your subconscious and it's smarter than you. Listen to it. Another part of trusting your gut is no longer ignoring the red flags in people, no longer giving people the benefit of the doubt until they prove that they deserve it. I used to see red flags and I'd physically feel something in my gut telling me, no! I'd hear it internally. I'd even name it as a red fucking flag in my inner voice brain and tell myself I probably shouldn't ignore that, and then I'd promptly ignore it. I'd rationalize it away only to, of course, find myself crashing hard from another failed relationship about 10 months later when I quit blaming my misery on the guys I chose and realized I was setting myself up for failure by continuing toxic patterns I learned from my upbringing. My whole life changed. I feel like I have been dirty for my whole life and I just took my first shower ever. Like I didn't even know I was missing it until it happened, and then I couldn't imagine how I had ever lived without it in the first place. You can't go back to being covered in filth once you finally experience what it's like to feel clean for the first time in your existence. How do you explain that moment of enlightenment to someone who hasn't been able to find it yet and thinks they know what it is? All I can tell you is that you're in for a hell of a fun surprise because it's so much cooler than you think it's going to be. In an instant, I felt unburdened by a tremendous amount of guilt I wasn't even aware I was carrying. I felt it just lifting itself right off my back. This weight I didn't even know was there. And with that weight lifted, I felt freedom and joy and an immense sense of finally heading my life in the right direction for the first time in my 45 years on this planet. That string of 3 relationships with narcissists that each brought me to my knees, sobbing on the floor. I had been ignoring red flags due to subconscious conditioning by my loving but codependent, enabling, and slightly doormat-like mother, combined with an alcoholic, emotionally distant, narcissistic father. Mom used to tell me, well, everyone is different. Allow people to be who they are, even if we don't agree. Or just because someone makes different choices than you, that doesn't mean they're wrong. Or that's just the way he, meaning my father, is. I had to learn to be accepting of abusive and neglectful behavior because that's just who they are. My parents both trained me perfectly for narcissistic abuse in my romantic relationships later on in life, but I know they didn't do it on purpose, so I forgive them. I had to own my own shit. Song, Love Me by Katy Perry. Yes, these narcs I dated took advantage of my kindness, my love, my empathy, my desire to help, but I'm the patsy who kept setting myself up for them to do it to me every fucking time. So who is really to blame, eh? I will take half the blame for sure. I will own that all the toxicity I lived through is partly my fault for not loving myself enough to put a stop to all that terrible treatment and leave at the first red flag. Not everyone will hurt you, but there is dark evil in this world, and some will hurt you on purpose. So you need to be careful about who you open up to and protect your big empathetic heart. When you ignore this universe / your gut, you pay a price. My price was a complete and total demolishing of my heart, identity, and self-worth. But it was me who was putting myself in the position to be used and emotionally shattered time and time again. I was a glutton for punishment, and I apologize to myself every day for that. I deserved so much better. We all do. I didn't say any of this soul searching would be easy, by the way. I was sobbing for over an hour as I was washed over with realization after realization when it all hit me. My heart didn't just break. I felt it shatter into a million tiny shards as surely as ice meeting a hammer. When I realized my trauma was valid, it was real. It did happen. Not that I had an excuse. I just now had an explanation. Finally. Now I can fix it. It's the revelation I'd been hoping for my whole life because I finally figured out where my issues stem from. I could finally get to working on understanding myself better and why I keep repeating toxic patterns. I can work on being a better person to be in a relationship with, not continue to bleed my old wounds on the next guy I try to use as Band-Aid. I had been aiming low because my own self-worth was in the fucking gutter because that had been my programming from my childhood. That I wasn't important, that I wasn't worth it. I had stifled my creativity and told myself I wasn't special because I wasn't ever encouraged to be. I did not believe in myself. How many of you can relate? Parents don't have to be cruel to cause damage. They just need to be indifferent or not involved. You don't have to tell a child they are bad. Just don't ever tell them they are good, and the same message will be received. It's our job to see that a parenting failure is something we as adults can now handle and fix ourselves. We have the power within us, and I find that simply magical. This awakening opened a whole new way of thinking for me. I exited the rat race, as many have right now because of COVID, and I am taking the chance to follow my calling. We have been given a chance, all of us, to reevaluate what is important in life and what truly makes us happy. We have been traumatized, abused, and taken advantage of. We have found that working office jobs and killing ourselves for corporations is not a satisfying way to live. When we allow ourselves to explore another option, to tap into our inner child, and go for what truly makes us happy at our core, our collective fog lifts. By listening to that inkling of intuition and following my true gut instinct for what makes me feel happy, I am finding true peace. And it's pretty fucking awesome. I'm here to try to help you find it too. That's chapter 1, guys. I'll put the link to buy in my book if you just can't fucking wait and you want to listen to it all right now. Otherwise, next week, it'll be chapter 2. Subscribe. See you then. Bye.